So I think we're all well aware of the fact that today is Good Shepherd Sunday. So happy Good Shepherd Sunday.
Happy Good Shepherd Sunday.
By the end of Mass, we'll get this down. Now, I have to admit that for a long time, I did not really feel this very much, the Good Shepherd Sunday, and the gospel image that goes with this Sunday. Now, Jesus is the Good Shepherd, that's fine. Don't get me wrong, I have no problems with that. Bishops, even to this day, are formally known as shepherds. They are there to lovingly and with a lot of care guide us in this day and age. But seriously, have you ever met sheep? Have you? No, not many people do, right? Well, let me tell you something about that. My family, in Germany, we weren't farmers, but we always had a little bit of land because my dad always had horses. So they had to graze somewhere. And on those parts of the meadows where the horses weren't, we would keep a couple of sheep. Not many, maybe 5, sometimes 3, depending on how hungry we were. And so they would be grazing the parts of the meadows where the horses were not. And I tell you, those sheep, they were some of the dumbest animals I have ever met. They would eat anything put in front of their mouths, and I mean everything and anything. One time, and I was very young still, okay? So please don't judge me for that. And I don't want anybody to follow this advice. It's not advice. This is what you shouldn't do with sheep, okay? So one time I took the newspaper with me, not to read it. That would have been the better choice. But instead I fed it to the sheep. And they ate it. Not complaining. They didn't care about the political leaning of the newspaper. Or if it was bad news or good news, they simply ate it. Not questioning anything that I was doing with them. And of course my dad found out. He was not too pleased because he was concerned about his sheep, right? Makes sense, yes. So we're all aware we shouldn't feed paper products to sheep, okay? I have said it now. Everybody knows, especially the kids here, don't do it. That was definitely bad news, but don't worry, sheep may be dumb, but they're also very resilient. They can stomach almost anything, so they were fine. But don't try it. So let's get back to Jesus and the gospel. Jesus being the good shepherd and us being the sheep. That's where I had my difficulties. I didn't like that. For to me it sounded like we were dumb animals. It sounded like we had to mindlessly follow someone else because we couldn't do it. And so here we are once again on the 4th Sunday of Easter, Good Shepherd Sunday. Every year we hear the story of the Good Shepherd. In cycle A, which was last year, we heard about Christ being the sheep gate, and then in our cycle this year, you just heard it, the model shepherd, and in the C cycle, the caring shepherd. Now, I have met other people, so I'm not alone. I have met other people who had trouble with this image. They don't like to be called sheep. And I think we maybe can relate because the term is still used for human beings in our day and age, especially when you have somebody who is of the other political side. Oh, they're just sheep. They mindlessly and blindly follow whoever the leader is at the time, right? Nobody wants to be called a sheep. But what these comments and my own very childish take on this whole sheep issue fail to see is that there is more to this story, that there is a point that Jesus is trying to make that goes way beyond some characteristics of sheep that may be not so great. And it's not about Jesus calling us dumb, at least not this time. Sometimes he calls us out, not today. So let's look into this. Interestingly, John is the only one who tells us in his gospel about the Good Shepherd. Okay? And he tells us about the Good Shepherd as being the one who lays down his life for us. 5 times we hear that the Good Shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. And the people of that time, when they heard this, they would have understood right away what the meaning behind this is. It was the good shepherd's and the owner's shepherd's job to care and defend the sheep from every ill that might befall them. That's the good shepherd. If a sheep was missing, the shepherd would have to go searching for it and bringing it back. And in ancient times, when the shepherd was trying to keep the sheep safe and he did not succeed, he would have to bring something back to the owner that showed that he was giving his all. So he would have to wrestle with the wolf to at least get an ear, or maybe another piece of the sheep, and bring it back and say, see, I really tried everything, but that wolf was just stronger than I was, but I gave it my everything I had in my power. And fighting with a hungry wolf, that does sound very dangerous to me. So a good shepherd warded off would-be attackers by day, of course, but especially at night. At night, when he would put his staff over the gate, and all the sheep had to duck underneath, and he would identify, first of all, are they his? And secondly, are they okay? And thirdly, are they all there? So when they were all gathered together, he would then lie across the entrance so that no threat from outside could harm them. No wolf or thief could touch the sheep without first going through the shepherd. And that is where the key to understanding this image in the right way lies, because those are wonderful images of loving protection. Jesus is not telling us to follow him mindlessly like dumb animals. He's the one who knows his sheep, which in Hebrew doesn't just mean that he knows us because we come here every Sunday, like an acquaintance, right? Oh yeah, I've seen you before. You weren't really listening to the homily, but yeah, I've seen you before. No, this knowing means much more. It's a loving care that he has for each and every one of us. And that's also where we can say that if this is what Jesus does, then maybe there is something that we need to do in return. You could say that Jesus was taking a very different take on the sheep than I did as a child. I am the good shepherd, and I know mine, and mine know me, just as the Father knows me, and I know the Father, and I will lay down my life for the sheep. If we appreciate this love that is poured out to us, we are to return that love in kind. Sheep are totally dependent on the shepherd. He cares for them, he nurtures them, he feeds them, he leads them. Yes, absolutely, and Jesus wants to let us know that that's precisely what he does for us. More than that, the good shepherd goes out to find the lost sheep, the one that has strayed away, maybe doesn't make it on every Sunday to get to church, and that is just as important to him as the 99 others. The other thing, though, that is significant about this is that when one sheep is missing, the flock is not whole. One is missing, the flock is not whole. And that's why the shepherd will do everything in his power to find that one lost sheep. And that's, my brothers and sisters, that is an image of salvation. How Jesus brings us all together, that there will be one flock and one shepherd. So yes, of course, I think we're all very different from sheep. We all have intellect and will. We can choose to follow the Good Shepherd, or we can choose not to follow. It's up to us. But if we hear his voice and follow him, he will lead us to springs of living water and wipe away tears from our eyes. You know, to follow Jesus is not for the cowardly or the self-centered. To return his love is to love as he loved and to care as he cared. Using our intellect and being passionately involved freely and giving our all, that's what it's about. To love as he loved is to care as he cared, not just theoretically, but to love for real. We can't just wait for the bishops to do that because they're the official shepherds. We have to do that too. We are asked to love every sister and every brother that crosses our path, not simply those we like or those who like us, that'd be easy, but those we don't like, or maybe even those that we strongly dislike, those who live and think and talk and maybe even sin differently from us. More than anything else, to love as he loved is to care for the sheep that limp, for the lost ones, those who hunger for bread, or those who hunger for justice, or those who hunger for love, those who have no pillow for their heads, no shoulder for their troubled hearts, those who are imprisoned behind bars, and those who are imprisoned within their very own selves. That, my brothers and sisters, is the Good Shepherd, and that is the one who is telling us, first of all, that we have to do as he does. And that's where the imagery ends, because what Jesus calls us to do is to become like shepherds ourselves. As Christians, we cannot sit back like little sheep and wait for someone else to do the job. Good shepherds care, and good shepherds dare to care just as Jesus did. Good Christians, people who love and act just like he does. Amen.